Good afternoon. I'm David Kleeman. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Trends for Dubit, which is a Leeds-based company that is a game studio building primarily Roblox games, but across a number of platforms, and a research and strategy consultancy. I work a little more closely with the research side than with the games side. Been in children's media for about 35 years, so I bring a lot of historical perspective to it and such. You will notice I don't have Adam Woodgate here. Adam runs our Dubit Trends studies, which I'll tell you about in just a minute. He is out of the country right now, and so I'm going to present on my own. But we call this the power of two because we're bringing you not only our perspective, but also that of another company that we've been doing some work with lately. So let me tell you a little bit more. Dubit Trends is our twice yearly study of kids' ownership and access to technology, the content that they prefer, how they find their way to content in a crowded environment, what their parents tell us about media use in the family and choices that they make. We survey in the US 2,000 people every 6 months, in the UK 1,300 people every 6 months, from the ages of 2 to 18. And then we have about 18 other countries where we visit more or less once a year. Things change a little more slowly, so we're able to just go back about once a year and see what's new. It's an online survey for 2 to 8. The parents complete it for the child with a particular child in mind, or with the child sitting there helping them to answer. From 8 up to 18, the kids answer it, young people answer it for themselves. One thing to point out that you'll see throughout this data is that when we ask about favorite content, we don't give them a list of 100 things and here are the things that we're aware of, how smart are we? Did we get them right? Instead, we ask them, what are your favorite games, apps, toys, movies, TV shows right now, so that we get a sense of what they're passionate about in the moment. And so what you get is sort of long tail of things that are on their minds, and some things rise to the top and get very popular, and others sort of come and fade and that. But we really want to get what's on their minds in the moment. By the way, also there's a lot of data in these slides that I'm going to put up. You're more than welcome to sit and take pictures of them, but you're also welcome just to give me a card or contact me afterwards, and I'll be glad to send you the slides. So if you don't want to take up your time taking pictures, feel free to get in touch with me afterward. The company that we are working with on this is called The Family Room. They're a US-based company that has what they call their Passion Points survey, and they talk to families around the world about the sort of social and emotional aspects of what's salient to them right now, and what's changing in their social and emotional lives as a family, and what stays the same, what drives the decisions that families make as the world around them changes. Because Dubit Trends really looks at the what of what young people are doing with media and technology and entertainment, we find them a really good partner to work with because they're looking at the why. I'm looking at this that I'm presenting today from the perspective of navigating rough seas. Now, what does that mean? You can't look at Gen Alpha, today's young people, and the trailing part of Gen Z, without thinking about the things that have influenced them just in the last couple years. There are always pressures on young people, societal pressures, family pressures, personal pressures. But really, we've had 4 things come in just in the last few years that have had an outsized impact on it. The 4 C's: climate change. Obviously, this is a generation that's very concerned about what they can do to change the world, to improve the world, to do their part around climate change. COVID-19, which I probably should have put as the top of the list just because it influenced this generation so much, kept away from their friends for anywhere from a year and a half to 3 years. A time where we call it down on the corner went up on the server, that all of their social relationships that at that point had to come through digital means. They couldn't be together in person. conflict, not just the war in Ukraine, but also domestic and international conflicts that are going on right now, that they can see all around them, that they can feel in the places where they live. And cost of living, which is obviously the inflation, the prospect of recession, where kids are very much aware of what's going on in their families around that. And what you've got are these knock-on effects that are affecting kids that come from their awareness of these things and their sense of these things, where they feel a loss of agency. Things are out of their control. They just don't feel as much control over their lives and their friends' lives as they did a couple years ago. It's coming back to them now. They're starting to regain control. Sensing parental worry. Any of you who have kids know, as I discovered when my kids were little, that as much as you try to protect them from things that are going on in the family, in the community, that are making you anxious, they are great detectors of it, and they know when something's wrong. And so if they sense that parents have worries, they will that will knock onto them and give them worries as well. Anxiety is about growing up. It's really not just what's going on in the world today. It's what kind of world am I going into? What's my role going to be? How do I get to where I want to be? And then social delays from COVID, I mentioned before, the down on the corner went up on the server, and just trying to rebuild the social connections. And I don't know if you've felt it here at CMC now that we're back in person, but being around people is a muscle. And it faded for a lot of us over the couple years that we were not able to be around people. And personally, I find it exhausting at the end of the day to have been, engaging with people. And I love being back. I'm so thrilled to be back at conferences in person. But it is tiring, and it is for kids as well. The effect is that what you end up with is what the family room calls cautious explorers. Kids really want to be out in that world right now. They want to expand their world. They want to do all the things that they have in mind, that the adventures, the stories, the exploration that they want to do. But they also kind of want to keep a foot in safety. And you'll see that very much reflected in some of the choices that they make, and in some of what families tell us and the family room about their lives now. I'm going to do this in 4 age cohorts, from the youngest up to the oldest, and I'll tell you a little bit about what the family room says about their emotional priorities, what the top 5 emotional priorities that they see, a little bit about what the family room says about what's kind of accelerating in their lives and what's just the foundation of their emotional lives that doesn't change a lot but is really important to them. And then going to what kids tell us, again, spontaneously, are their favorite things right now, and then what's changed from 2018 to 2020 to 2023, what the biggest changes are in the things that in the content that they consume. So let's start with 2 to 5 and the emotional priorities. Keep in mind, this is parents answering for kids. So what you're seeing up there at this age is not really what's on the kids' mind. They're not thinking, oh, how am I going to make ends meet? But it's the parents thinking about that for the kids, and the parents thinking, being anxious about funding, being anxious about how they're going to keep their kids safe. Do I wrap them in cotton wool, or do I send them out and let them explore and maybe get hurt a little bit here and there, or have a setback here and there, but gain that resilience? How do I let them make choices? And all of it comes under the category of emotional well-being, of how do I support them in being good, happy, engaged, active kids. This chart, what you're seeing here is Passion Points measures both the intensity of feeling, so how strongly something affects a family, but also the velocity, so things that are rising and falling. The 5 things that I've really just talked about on the last slide were much more about the things that are high velocity, high intensity. They're the things that are rising in families' importance right now. But it's really important to look at the things that lie under the surface, that are just provide the surface, that are low velocity but high intensity. So families are always going to be concerned about educating their children, about what kind of education they're getting, both formal and informal. But that's always going to kind of lie beneath the surface. It's not something so much that jumps up at different times. And discovering the world, they want to give them a little more range, a little more range. I don't know if you've ever seen one of my favorite maps is from Sheffield, actually, and it was 4 generations of families and how much latitude they were able to give the child had to go out at the beginning of the day and explore. 4 generations ago, it was pretty much the entire map of Sheffield. 3 generations ago, it was the neighborhood. 2, it was the block, and now it's kind of, you need to be in my eyesight. So they really want to let them discover, but they're very anxious about it. When you think about the top brands that 2 to 5-year-olds are consuming right now, they are really very age-appropriate things that are very much built around this idea of expanding your world very cautiously about family, about very close friends, about kind of constructing your world around you. So you see Peppa Pig, Paw Patrol, and Bluey right at the top. Each one of those is built around a core of either family or close friends that has explorations together and develops the relationships together. You get things like Lego that allow the child. Lego you'll see it pop up across virtually all ages because it's the kind of thing where you build at the level that you're ready for, and you experience the brand at the level you're ready for, whether through story or through building for yourself. And as you go across, it's mostly, there are a few little things that sneak in that are kind of the next age group up, Spider-Man, Marvel. Again, the parents are answering for the kids here, but by and large, it's very focused on those very age-appropriate things. What's grown most in it? Here, I think what we're seeing is a double effect of popular culture, the things that families see all around them all the time, and the fact that it's the parents answering for the kids. So there's probably a lot of co-viewing, co-play going on, because you do see things sneaking in like Marvel and Teen Titans Go and Mario that are not really aimed at the 2 to 5-year-olds, but that are probably on in the household. And so probably rose when everyone was together, they probably jumped up in importance. 2 to 5 is making sense of the world. It really is just figuring out who you are, and then beyond who you are, who the people are who are right around you, how this world works. You know, you probably haven't expanded by the age of 5 much beyond your immediate neighborhood. When we think about, and the parents are making the choices, children obviously have a lot of preferences in that, and they'll express those preferences, but it's the parents who make the ultimate choice, and that knocks on as well to what learning means at this age. That it's really about apps or television programs chosen by the parents to fulfill something that they see as being a need. So look at it as push content of education. I think this is important for you, so I'm going to give it to you, and it is intentionally made to fulfill that. At each age group, I'm going to look at sort of the focus, the things that are most popular, and then the things that have grown from pre-pandemic to now. So at this age, focus, as it traditionally has been, is on safe content, families born and chosen. Just that little hint of excitement to keep kids engaged in the story, to really give them a safe feeling of exploration, a safe feeling of challenge. When you look at growth, it's the older kids' brands. Again, I really think that has to do with pop culture and parents or siblings. And gaming is starting to sneak in a little bit of ways, but you'll see how gaming just rises throughout the age groups. When we go to 6 to 9, the emotional priorities are about that expansion, and now it's going to school and peer groups, and their social and emotional lives become around having friends that they can trust, about starting to separate out at 6 to 9. You really start to see the splintering into peer groups, also into different passions. Kids develop their own interests, and so as media makers, you all know it's much tougher to reach the 6 to 9-year-olds than the 2 to 5, because 2 to 5 is really figuring out the basics. 6 to 9, it's like, who am I? What am I interested in? Where's my peer group? And I'm going to pursue the things around that. Education shifts at that point from push, as I was saying, to pull, to what am I passionate about and how do I find out more information about it. But at the same time, they're still very close to family. They are still 1 foot out exploring in the world and very much one foot planted right in the middle of the family, and finding it very important to spend time with their family to feel close, to keep that family unit very close. When you look at the things that are under the surface, the foundational things, the low velocity, high intensity, it's about just being a kid. It really is about, I want to keep coming back and feeling safe, feeling loved. I want to have that safe zone where even if I venture out a little ways, I know I can always come back and go back to things that I enjoyed when I was younger, be surrounded by the people that I love. When you look at the top content, suddenly games start to really jump in. Now, 6 to 9, you're really just learning how to be able to do some of these things, manipulate Roblox, Minecraft. So you're starting to be able to play, but maybe not particularly efficiently. Lego, it comes right up to the top, because there you really are learning to build the things that you have in your mind. You're learning to make things that are more complex, get the things out of your mind and into the bricks. But beyond that, you're really looking at very familiar characters that are, again, primarily age appropriate. Barbie, Pokemon, Mario. Some things that reach back a little bit, give you that sense of safety. Bluey. I think all of us, I can speak for the 60 plus age group, that thinks Bluey makes you feel nice and safe. That was not there in 2018. It didn't exist, so it's really come to the top very, very quickly. And when you look at what's the biggest growth over that time, again, some things that give them that feeling of safety. Toca Boca is really primarily aimed at the preschool age and had the fastest growth. Now, again, if you start with a very low base, then growth can look very big. So that's why Toca Boca is at the far left of this. When you start with a larger base and you still have massive growth for something like Roblox, that's a pretty good indication that something has become core to who a lot of kids are as gamers. 6 to 9, the world, as I was saying before, the world is expanding, it's atomizing. You go off into your own particular interest groups, you develop new peer groups, you're testing your independence, but you also don't want to quite let go of the apron strings yet. We've been told in talking to families well pre-pandemic that kids want to spend more time with parents. Parents want to spend more time with kids. It's the thing they say is most important to them. And yet it never seemed to happen until the pandemic, when there was no choice. They had to spend time together. And that was the one good thing that families told us came from the pandemic, was we found new ways to spend time together. We found new ways to make things special that before, instead of just watching a movie together, we would make it a movie night, and we might even camp out in the basement, or we'd have a special meal to go along with it, because we wanted to try to we're together all the time, but we want to make special occasions as well. Families told us they really hoped that they could hold on to that post-pandemic, and it remains to be seen. I think we're still too close to tell how that's happening. We've certainly seen some declines as everybody gets busy again, but they really want to hold on to it. So the focus is on building in social play. It's on characters that help to enable the imagination of the child, to let them get out the things that they're imagining, and then play out in stories sometimes. And then growth is about increasing game competence. As they learn to play, they devote more time to it. They go off to YouTube and learn how to get past things that they were stuck on before. And then engagement and familiarity. When we get into the 10 to 12 age group, the emotional priorities that take over are really starting to spread out. They want to explore the world. They want to do things that are new and exciting. They're going to still keep that foot in the family. They want to have fun together as a family, but it really is about, now I feel like I'm ready to take a few more chances, to get out there a little bit more, to explore the world. The low velocity, high intensity, having friends that I can trust. So as you're going to take more risks, you want to make sure that you are surrounded by people who are going to support you in those risks, who are going to be there for you when you need them. And it's still, this is going to be throughout, safe, feeling loved. When we look at the content that they choose, games have really come to the fore now. Roblox, Minecraft, we start to see Fortnite and FIFA sneak in there, Nintendo, so you're looking at 6 of the top 10 at least that are gaming platforms. And you're starting to see experimentation with more adult or teen-oriented storytelling, like Stranger Things, like The Simpsons. And yet you can still see these nice things hanging on in there, like Nerf, that's very lets them. It's kind of open play. It's yeah, Nerf and Lego I see as being facilitating that kind of imaginative open play with your friends. The biggest growth at this point, look at Roblox continue to just shoot up between 2018 and 2023. I sometimes refer to Roblox as the 18-year overnight success, or 15-year overnight success, because it came out around 2008, but it was really only around around the pandemic that it just took off and came to dominate a lot of kids' play. But again, the biggest growth is coming in those gaming platforms, in some of the bigger world-building brands like Stranger Things and Harry Potter, and still holding on to a few of the things from childhood, Hot Wheels, for example. YouTube becomes prominent in what they're doing. And again, there's something of a cycle there that if you're a gamer and you run up against a problem, or you want to learn how to build something, or you want to in Minecraft, or you want to learn how to make a game in Roblox, you turn to YouTube to get the information. Then you come back to the game, play until you're stuck again, back to YouTube. This age group, the 10 to 12s, they're all about empowerment and mastery. They're all about, okay, I've found my passions, I've found the things that I really want to do. Now I want to get good at them. Now I want to build my peer group around them, and I want to show my peer group that I'm gaining as well. You get more able to work through the challenges of gaming, and that's why gaming starts to be so compelling. Is it's an ongoing challenge. You keep working, leveling up in it. The focus is on the social platforms, but not social media yet. I should say you'll see social media come in the teenage years in a very strong way. The way we ask questions of people, I think it's not surprising that we know that 10 to 12-year-olds are on a lot of these platforms. They're not supposed to be until 13. We know they're there. But I think the way that we ask questions kind of downplays the social media platforms, but really brings out from them the social gaming platforms. And then diversifying their gaming platforms. You become a Minecrafter or a Fortnite player or a Roblox player, and you may cross over here and there, but you really focus your time on one of them. And again, this atomization of groups out into their own passions and platforms. So finally, we come to the age 13 plus, the teenagers. And as I say, we measure up to 18. So this is a little bit broader age group. When you look at the passion points, the family room study, you start to see the outside world really start to step in there. Being smart about money, learning how to make money, family having enough money to pay for everyday things. Again, it's partly seeing the parents' concerns about things, and it's partly, you know what, I'm getting to an age where I want to have money of my own. I want to make sure that I am planning for a future where I'm going to have enough money to do the things that I want to do. And at the same time, parallel to that anxiety about growing up and having a stable teen years and adulthood, there's also the emergence of very strong identity. Music becomes really critical here because music is a stand-in. The type of music you choose is a stand-in for for who you feel you are. You want to be strong. You want to show who you are and what you care about. This is an activist generation, especially as we get into those teen years, the trailing end of Gen Z. They care very much about the world around them and want to wear on their shirts, on their sleeves, in their hearts, what it is that they believe in. But the undercurrent of that, they still are anxious about staying positive, feeling good about who they are, being happy. It always tugs at me just a little bit to see that they are so anxious about, I want to be happy, that they have, even at 13 to 18, they feel they have to be anxious about, I want to be happy, that it's not just a given. Top platforms, look how social media has just jumped right to the top. Snapchat, Instagram, you see Facebook there. Our feeling about Facebook, and you see Facebook above TikTok, I had a question about how that happens. Part of that is how the questions are asked, that since we ask them, what are your 3 favorite this, that, the other. TikTok is kind of a blend of a lot of different things, so it doesn't necessarily fit easily into any one of those. So if they're thinking about their 3 favorite games, they're not going to think TikTok. If they're thinking about their 3 favorite videos, they're not going to think TikTok. So I think that's why it emerges strongly, but it's not, it's down this list of top 10. Facebook, what we find, you hear the line that teens don't like Facebook, that they've rejected it. A lot of them are there because they have to be there. That's where grandma is. So if I want to keep up with grandma, that's where I've got to be. Or that's where my school club is. So I've got to be there if I want to get the latest update in what the club is doing. So a lot of it is not their top choice, but they are there. When you look at growth, again, it's Roblox continues to dominate, but you start to see messaging apps, Discord and Messenger really come in there because staying in constant touch with your friends is critical. We see kids getting their first smartphone somewhere around between 8 and 10 right now, but by the time you're in this 13 to 18 age group, that's your lifeline, and you want to be in constant communication with your friends. You've probably, if you have teenagers, you've seen it. They've been with their friends all day at school, but as soon as they're home, everything opens up, and they're already on Discord. They're already on Messenger, talking to different groups of friends while they're doing other things. So for 13 to 18, childhood is starting to be in the rearview mirror. They're starting to think more and sometimes be a little more anxious about the future, but at the same time, they're developing a stronger sense of self, and they're starting to think, how do I project myself? That's part of the attraction of social media. Is it's my way to show who I am, what I stand for, what I believe in. Social media, social games, self-expression are the real fundamentals of it, and in growth, it's about communication and messaging. So just a final takeaway, because I couldn't resist the opportunity to put Jean Piaget and Jeff Bezos into the same slide. Bezos says, everyone asks me what's going to change in the next 10 years. Nobody asks me what's not going to change. And Bezos says, that to me is more important. What are the fundamentals that if I aim for that, I'm not subject to the whims of things rising and falling? And Piaget says childhood is a constant, is consistent. It's the context in which children grow up that changes around them. Both passion points and our trend study really show that those consistent things in kids' lives, the desire to be loved, the desire to be safe, the desire to have close friends, the desire to be close to your family, are always going to be there. And it's the context around it that allows them to explore in different ways and always have a safe place to come back to. So if you're developing IP for kids, if you're developing stories, if anything that you're creating for them, give them that freedom to explore. Give them the opportunity to be part of the story, to create around it, to feel like they can escape out, but then they always have a safe place to come back to. As I say, feel free to send me an email, and I'm happy to share the slides with you. You can also see how to get in touch with the family room if that side interests you as well. Thank you so much for coming to this. Any questions?
Just in the data, I guess my question's about socioeconomic divisions. The data seems to treat the year groups in quite a flat way, but in terms of my own experience, from school to school, say, I'm seeing massive differences in access to media between socioeconomic groups. I just wonder, are you seeing that in the data?
Absolutely, and if you look at the deeper trends data, it can be broken out by socioeconomic group, by race and ethnicity, even by things like age of parents. As Adam Woodgate likes to point out, he is in his early 50s and he has a teenager. Most of his son's friends have parents who are in their 30s. They come from very different places in their cultural life, in their technology life, in their media life, and so we look to parse the data in as many ways as possible. In something like this, when you are looking at all 1,300 UK respondents and bringing it down to just frequency of mentions, that gets flattened out some. There's going to be substantial differences if you look male-female, socioeconomic, in any number of ways. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.